Hello, welcome to CONjuration. This is the Page to Screen, The Wheel of Time panel here in the Crystal Cave. My name is Anthony Liggins. I was the Assistant Director of Media at the Monsterama most recent convention. I've been going to DragonCon for the last 23 years. Been doing panels for about the last 4. Here, Nerdy Graw and Atlanta Comic Convention. I'm also a co-host of the Fandom Hybrid podcast, and I'm a longtime fan of Robert Jordan, and I love The Wheel of Time. You know, it's second only to Lord of the Rings in my book. And I'm let my panelists introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Hanako M, and I am the creator and host of the aforementioned Fandom Hybrid podcast. The Wheel of Time is one of the shows that we cover on our podcast. However, we have not gotten to season 2 yet. That will be coming up in 2024. I am a longtime CONjuration attendee, and this is my 4th year paneling here. I'm also a DragonCon attendee. I've been paneling there for 11 years, and all of the other conventions that Anthony mentioned. I have not yet read the Wheel of Time books. I am a show-only fan at this point. And I think what I decided to do was, once I heard that there were so many changes, I decided that I'm going to wait until the show is over to read the books. That way I don't have to.
No, go ahead. Read the book.
What's all the rage right now is for new readers to podcast as they go.
Uh-huh.
It's a huge thing right now.
It is. It really is.
So I'm just saying, you already have a
But read
podcast.
the books.
Make it a segment.
You do
The
need
books are so much better.
I've heard, and that I think that's one of the reasons why I have. That's one of the reasons why I haven't read them yet, because I don't want to be in that. I don't want to be in that competitive space, because I'm a Harry Potter fan, and I do that a lot with Harry Potter and with some of the others.
The great thing about the Wheel of Time, when you take the Wheel of Time, you take Harry Potter.
Mhm.
The Wheel of Time does not even come close to Harry Potter.
Oh yeah.
The two
Oh yeah.
are the same
No,
level.
what I'm saying is, as far as the similarities between book and media, I don't want to go into, because I started watching the show first. I don't want to get to a place where I'm watching the show and I'm like, well, that's not how they did it in the book. So I'm trying to separate it.
Okay, it's my turn.
Let's put a pin in it, because we're going to come back to that.
Hi, I'm Barbara Evers, and I am the author of the Watchers of Manaya trilogy. I also have a short story collection out called Pieces of Her. Being a woman is not for the faint of heart. I am a fantasy writer, obviously. I am a huge Wheel of Time fan. Quick story, when I first started reading The Wheel of Time, my brother gave me the first book and said, I think you'll like this. There are already 3 books out, and it's only going to be a 6-book series, so you'll be cool. And, obviously, it was not a 6-book series.
11 books later.
Yeah. So, but I read them all. Now, I will admit the last few ones, it took me a while to get to them, but I have read them all. Some of them multiple times, some of them not multiple times. It just depends on the book. And was really excited when the series came out. I've done panels on this at JordanCon the last 2 years. By the way, I'm a 3rd-time attendee for CONjuration. This is my 3rd year on panels. And I've been on panels with these 2 before last year also. I also go to Con Carolina's Atomicon, Imaginarium. Where else do I go? I can't remember right now. But I haven't done DragonCon yet. And I'm probably going to try this coming year. But anyway, when I did Moonlight and Magnolias, which was a romance writers conference back in October, that was interesting. Different, but interesting to say the least.
Unfortunately, I will say DragonCon. This is the only convention that I know of. The carpet of the hotel.
The carpet of the hotel, what?
We have our own cults.
Before they changed it.
Oh.
Yeah, we have a cult.
Literally is part of the culture of DragonCon.
Yes,
Okay.
it is a
I've been to
character in and of itself.
DragonCon, but it's been years since I've been to DragonCon, and that was as an attendee.
Fabric that looked like that carpet, you can make costumes out of it. And also a cardboard cut out of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
we could do a whole.
Yeah, we
that
did a
would be
whole panel.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. But it's been a long time since I've been to Dragon Con.
You were talking about the books.
Mhm.
Go to the books for a second.
Yeah.
How it would take you a long time to read the last few books.
Mhm.
For me, 5, 6, and 7 was like I was just sludging through those books for some reason. There was a lot of politics and a lot of posturing and a lot of maneuvering
Mhm.
and not as much action. But 5, 6, and 7 were just they were difficult for me.
What
to get
I
through.
found out, and it never dawned on me, is that some people, every time a book came out, started over and read the whole series so they would be up to speed. I'm not that kind of reader.
I used to be that kind of
I would just pick it up, which meant when we got to those ones, I was going, remember this character. Oh, well, I'll keep reading. I'll figure out who they are. And I would. I'd eventually figure out who they were. But I just didn't have, there's too many books to read. Now that we have audiobooks. Yeah. Well, and I
Well,
don't
they
mind that.
Thicker.
But now that we have audiobooks, that's how I catch back up is I can, listen in the car and listen while I'm doing housework and stuff like that. So, but I read them as they came out, physical books. And yeah,
It was a long time between.
there was
Yeah,
a
it was-
long time between them. And I actually one time went into Barnes and Noble to get something to read and picked up the most recent Wheel of Time book, brought it home and realized, oh, this is one I've read. And I have, sitting on my shelf. It's just there were so many of them after a while, you just didn't remember what you had and what you didn't have. And I was like, I thought there was supposed to be, there's a new book. No, there wasn't a new book. It was one I'd already read.
See, I was looking for another fantasy series to read because I was reading the Shannara books.
Okay.
And those are great too. And I was looking I want to read something else that's like, a series, it's long. And I saw, Eye of the World. Oh, wait, there's 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, this is good. I'll do this one. So I read the first one and the second one and the third one. The fourth one I did audiobook.
Did you?
I was working for the AJC delivering newspapers at night. And so I would, everybody in Sonoya and Tyrone heard the Wheel of Time because I just printed it up and listened to it. 5 and 6, I think I read. 7, I did audiobook. All the way up until the last one, I did audiobooks. But I have the hard copies. I just haven't read them.
Audiobooks were my repeat. I read them all physically.
And the couple that did the audiobooks,
They're
fantastic.
very good. They are
They're
very
amazing. So we're supposed to talk about the show a little bit. It does say page the screen, but we'll talk about the show. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was now that we are on the
Second
second season, how do you feel? Like, what was your opinion during the first season, and has it changed about the second season? Or did it change?
So I guess since I read the books, you want me to go first, or do you want her?
No,
response?
you
Okay.
You can go first.
Okay. So when the first season came out, I was along the line of the people who were annoyed. And I struggled for a while. I kept watching it, but I'm like, how are people following this? Are people even following this? I wasn't sure if people could. And my husband, who's not a reader, kind of lost interest watching them, but I kept watching them, and I was not happy. But then I sat on panels at JordanCon and started talking to other people, and I also started listening to some of the podcasts, and I started to get kind of on the fence. And that was that was when they came out. And then last year at JordanCon, I was like, you know what, it's okay. There's certain parts of it I do like, but there's a lot that we are missing. And I mean, they changed the whole prophecy, all that kind of stuff, and that really blew my mind. And they changed, the way we look at Satan and Sadar. And so, have they even used those terms in the show? I don't think they have. They haven't used those terms. So,
The
but
showrunner does. He talks about
Yeah,
it, but they don't.
Yeah,
But,
but in the show.
when the second season came out, I kind of was on the side of, I'm not going to expect it to follow. So if anything that follows is just a bonus for me. And I actually enjoyed the second season a whole lot more than the first season. It does not follow the stories exactly, but there's some things that I'm like, okay, we got that right, kind of, okay, so, and I kind of get, because I have a daughter who's an actress, I kind of get how you can't take this massive volume and turn it into, especially when you're limited to 8 episodes, because that's what they were limited to, into something.
Added season.
Yeah, and so I began to accept that. Now, there's parts of the second season I didn't like. I mean, can we talk about that?
Yes.
Like, I'm sorry, Rand in the sky. Where was that? Rand needed to be fighting that battle in the sky, but he
Instead
didn't.
of on top of a building.
Right, he didn't. And so that annoyed me. I did not like the way they showed the Damani with the pacifiers. Yeah, with the pacifiers in their mouth. I thought that's.
If you look at, actually, if you read the books, you read the description of the book, even in the descriptions of the book, it talks about.
Does it? I don't remember that part. I don't remember that. I just remember the
It's to
leash.
keep them from, so, dominant.
Yeah, so.
That they're dominating.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I mean, the way they dressed the Sanshin was pretty cool. Definitely was pretty cool. I'm curious what in the world they're doing with Perrin and Min. That's different. There's a lot of stuff I'm curious about and where they think they're going with it. And yeah, I know that Moraine ended up exactly where I thought she'd end up at the beginning of that season. People were like, where do you think she's going to be? Where do you think? And I said, she's going to be doing that research, which is in a later book, but that's where she's going to be.
In the books, when they're her brain was supposed to be in a fire.
Mhm.
It's not talking about a banner of a dragon. It doesn't say nothing about the banner of a dragon. Banner of a dragon is actually a banner like you see in battle. The banner, they're talking about he's in the sky fighting him with fire.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I know. He fought in the sky,
He
and
fought
we
in
didn't
the
get
sky,
that.
yeah.
We didn't get that.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
They changed it completely to the banner of a dragon, which completely avoids the books.
See, this is why I'm not reading the books until the show is done.
Okay. All right.
Because
Speaking-
I
So
don't
let's see.
have those
Let's
issues.
see what
So,
she thinks, yeah.
Hanukkah, we know you haven't read the books.
Mhm.
You and I have talked about this before. So how do you feel about season 1 versus season 2? Or
So season 1, and because we've discussed it, season 1 started out kind of slow for me because this is a whole new world and you're trying to learn all these different terms. You're trying to learn just basically the lay of the land. And I think with season 2, they expanded on that a lot more. I don't think it moved as slow as season 1, like literally season 2, maybe the first episode, a little bit of the second episode, but then it was like off, and I loved it. I did like some of the character development in the show, but there was a lot that I had issues with in terms of characters and their behaviors and their actions
in the situation?
and their situations. And
Put a pin in it.
Yeah,
and we'll
yeah,
come back.
you know, you know what I you know. So
Y'all do.
there were some things that I had some issues with, but there was a lot that I did enjoy. As always, the look and the feel of Tarvalon and just the different locations, I loved it. The cinematography I felt was beautiful. The costuming was beautiful. And then-
They showed stone material.
And then there were some things that, like I said, just kind of bothered me a little bit, but yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. I've seen.
Okay.
But
There
I've seen
will
all-
be spoilers.
Okay.
Okay.
You've been through this. That goes slow for me. But I wanted to know from people who read the book if the costuming in season 1 and 2 are what you would have. As far as like the Aes Sedai and like
Well, they're not walking around with the Aes Sedai supposed to have shoals. They don't have those, but I like the way they're doing it with each Aes Sedai has their own style, but it's in the color.
The only thing I don't like is Moraine.
Now,
As far as her,
Costume?
As far as her costume, because she's missing a very vital part.
But if okay, so this is the one thing about page to screen, because when they create these shows, they are not they are doing it for a book audience, but they are also trying to draw in viewers
But
who don't
this-
watch. Hold on, let me finish my point, sir. They're doing it to draw in new fans that may not have the time, may not have the interest to read those books. Like I said, those are some very big books. 20 years ago, I could have zipped through them no problem. Now I'm 48, I just don't have the focus, I don't have the time. That being said, with her costuming and with the different things that they are doing, for someone like me who does not have any knowledge of the books, I feel like her costume is very beautiful. It's very appropriate. And also, I think with what you were saying as far as the shawls, with the things that they do from a visual medium and all of the, the body language and the hand signals, I think shawls would get in the way.
They would.
They're
They were.
so practical, like even cosplaying at Jordan Con
Yeah.
with a shawl on.
They get in the
They
way.
fall off.
They
all
fall
the
off,
freaking
yeah.
time. They're so obnoxious. You can't do that when you're trying to like do balancing, like you're trying to pull a shawl on you all the time.
Right.
It's just not practical.
The only
Yeah.
reason I say that the one crucial part of Maureen
Robert
just-
Jordan wasn't wearing a shawl, so he didn't think about that.
There's a lot of things he didn't think about.
costume. I like the person that's playing Maureen. I like the rest of her costume as far as her dress and everything. It kind of goes with the book. She's missing a crucial part. She wears a headdress, and the reason for that headdress was to give her something to focus to be able to channel her.
Yeah. The
Well, I
stone
kinda-
is missing.
Well,
But
they,
I don't think
But she
She
has
has
it.
it, she
Okay.
has it. She's
I
just
don't
not
think she
wearing
needed
it.
that anymore, though. I think she let him
But
use
she-
that at first, but it wasn't something she needed, like.
Part of the issue is how do you demonstrate that on screen? And
You could pinpoint her channel.
well, there's a lot of things like you don't get a lot of talk about the Angreal to Angreal and so
right, yeah.
and that's like more stuff they would have
Talking about
to.
Mhm.
I can't
The magical objects.
Yeah, they have to explain that a little bit more, and that's just time that they don't have. Based on
So
what they're
you're saying they're not gonna explain the side angles.
They do a little
They
bit.
did a little
A
bit in
little bit.
season
A
one
little
because
bit.
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
Moraine
Because-
gave the object to Rand,
Yeah.
Mhm.
just
But
a little
imagine,
bit.
they would have to explain Sir Angreal to Angreal.
And the other one,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, they
And-
refer to them, they just don't really.
Yeah, and they
Right.
do have them
Just like
because
they
they
don't
have the
talk about
arches.
Sidene and
And
Sidon.
they talk about how that Adam was a Terran Grial.
Right, so they do. It's just, it's not, we're not getting all that terminology.
The
which
terminology is
For a
what's
lot of people who've not read the books, the terminology is going to be a trip up.
Mhm.
So I'm sure that's part of why they're doing it, but they are using them because of course we have the becoming accepted and they have to go through it's Terangreal, isn't it?
Yeah,
that they
the
go
Terangreal.
Yeah, that they go through with the becoming accepted. And that definitely was explained to some degree, and especially the fact that they don't even know how they work or anything like that. I'm hoping, I don't want to know, that's a spoiler. I won't do it.
Crystal Sword.
Huh?
Crystal Sword still hasn't shown up.
I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be.
I doubt they're gonna.
It-
They're
That's
gonna
very
do.
important
They're gonna
side
do it.
angle, because he uses that to
They-
help
they-
with the source.
They're gonna do it
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll probably come in next
next
season, I'm
season or
thinking.
the season after.
They use the Choden Call to cleanse the source, not Kalendor.
Yeah, but they explain.
Thank God you said Kalendor, because I was trying to remember the name.
It's yeah. There's a whole thing about those of us who've read the books. We understand, we kind of get it. But even as a book reader, I still had a difficult time distinguishing between Sangreal and Terangreal.
I never
Right.
bothered to worry about
It's
which
one of
is
those
which.
things that annoyed me because I'm like, okay, so they can channel through it. Then there's the ones that magnify,
Just think
and then there's ones that
Terran
just
Grial
have
can be used by
power.
people who
Who
don't
don't
use the
channel.
power.
Right.
Mhm.
So that's one of those things where that's something they don't have to spend time on. They can just gloss over it and just move on. It's a magic object, period.
Mhm.
They'll do the sword because that's an important magic object. The one thing that I
That's
noticed,
part of the problem.
it is, but the thing is, like last year when the show first came out, to go back to my original question, I had mixed feelings about the show. So when the showrunner says, "Oh, it's only about 85% of everything you see in the first season is made up," is all original. Like it's only 15% of it is from the books. And you're sitting here thinking, well, damn, like really? So I'm watching. So in my mind, I'm watching fan fiction.
Mhm.
It's his idea of what.
It's
Wheel of
another
Time
turning
is.
of the wheel is what
And-
everybody
and
kept
he also-
saying.
And yeah, he said, people look at it as just another turning of the wheel, but then that doesn't make any sense.
They don't explain
But
who's their daily one.
He's shown up a little bit, but to be honest with you, if they'd started with that prologue that's in the first book, they would have lost people immediately because that's so far, ahead of where the stories are. But we did eventually get a little bit of that in the first season and a little
And
bit
then
of
a
it in
little
this
bit in
season.
the-
yeah.
So they're going to filter it in. And that's kind of the challenge. I mean, even writing a book, trying to figure out when you drop little things in, it takes time to figure that out.
Mhm.
And I think they'll eventually do it later. I
Yeah,
think it might have been a little bit too red wedding, like Game of Thrones for them to do it.
That's
But
possible
there's
too.
so many things like in order to explain what's going to happen to Rand later in reference to Luce Theron, you have to put in the mind of the viewers, oh, this dude is kind of crazy,
Mhm.
and this is where it's going to come from. So you'll see it because I had to go back. I was like, when did he start hearing the voices? Like, I had to go look it up because I can
Yeah.
It's
remember.
definitely around
When
the
did
Great
Lou
Hunt.
started
In the
hearing
book
it,
of Great
or-
Hunt.
Ignore me.
Oh, okay.
So,
It was definitely in the book of Great Hunt.
it was.
Starts to hear the voice.
No, well, there's a debate about it. He hears a voice, but we don't know if it's his conscious talking to him. But when we actually know is in a later book.
Right.
It's like 5 or
That's why I said he
And
starts
we
to
did
hear
so
the voice.
they have to kind of walk the people who haven't seen the books through this process.
Mhm.
The same decision they made with Perrin by giving him a wife that they could kill to explain why he's always brooding or whatever. Because in the book, Perrin hardly ever talks.
Yeah.
Everything is in his head.
And you can't do that on screen.
And you can't do that on screen.
So
So
you-
Well, also, Perrin's wife does get killed in the later books. When he goes back and takes over
but
there.
the woman that he's married to in the show is not the wife.
Yeah,
in the book.
that was I think that was the first thing where I was like, what the heck is going on here? When she showed up and then they fridged her,
Yeah,
Eric
they
gets
can-
married,
later.
his wife does not die.
Later.
No, but I thought one of them got married in
No.
2 rivers.
No, she
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah,
She doesn't.
eventually he marries Fail, but I don't think Fail dies.
Kyle should never die.
No, I don't
Okay.
think she does. But anyway, I want to talk about.
Karen was married.
Perrin
Yeah, not
gets
at the
married.
beginning, right?
I know this is a
Yeah.
spoiler. Perrin gets married later.
Yeah.
And they've cast who she is, I think.
Yeah,
I
right.
hope so. She's one of my favorite characters that comes along later.
Okay, so-
Married and his wife was killed in the attack.
Yeah, he killed her
I mean, at the very
accidentally, but he killed her.
beginning. At the very beginning.
Yeah, at the very beginning. But that was a character that was made up for the show
It was to
To
help do
explain.
his development.
to be a part of his development.
It's a weird way to go
It's a weird way to
because
go.
one of the things that we're missing that was in the books that was so much fun is how confused Rand, Perrin, and Matt were about women.
Yeah.
And I wish Matt was
true.
here. He knows how to talk to women. Matt's thinking, I wish Perrin was here. He knows how to talk to women. Rand's thinking, I wish, they're all thinking the others know how to talk to women. So to have, Rand and not Nynaeve, what's her name?
Egwene.
Egwene, thank you. Egwene so strongly already in a relationship, and to have Perrin actually married really took that
It
part of the
messes up the
story
dynamic.
out.
Yeah.
But they also chose to make them older. And
Yeah.
so it makes sense because they are older that they would have a little bit better idea about how to talk to women. I'm still very curious to see how the Matt and the Daughter of the Nine Moons is going to work out because it's real interesting now that we've seen the Sanction. But
Well, they also, at this point in the game, they also haven't showed Max Dice.
no, but he's
No.
been dicing.
We've seen him play dice a couple of times,
Mhm.
but I have decided to accept that Matt in the show is not going to be anywhere near Matt in the books.
He's not.
He's not.
So you don't
I mean,
think you're gonna hear the dice rolling in his head?
No. I mean, the last episode kind of helps you. It kind of makes you think that they're going to push towards that, but I don't think, because think about it, they talked about them being Taveran, and that's not something that ever comes
No,
up in the
it's not
show.
coming up.
Hearing the dice in his head is part of him being
Actually,
Taveran.
I think they did mention that term once this season. Yeah,
Maureen
but
refers
going
to it,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
But like hearing the dice in his head, a part of that is also being Taveran. You know, that and the fact that they're all connected. Like Perrin talks about how he can feel the pull of Rand. Like he knows where he doesn't know specifically where Rand is, but he can feel him pulling him.
Right.
Same thing with Matt. But we don't get that in the show because they can't show that to us. They can't show the dice rolling around in his head. We can read that.
Sound effects for the guys.
That's what I was more
But-
thinking.
Again,
I'm trying to explain.
It's hard.
it is hard.
But we have seen him dicing. We have seen him dicing.
Well, he does do that in the book.
And we have seen him have bad luck, and he started having good luck in this season
Yeah.
too, until Rand came along and he lost his hand because he walked away to talk to Rand. But
They haven't showed him in his black guard. They have showed his spear.
yeah, he doesn't have the black garb yet, and
And it's an interesting way they did the spear because now that makes me think that we're not going to get,
The black spear.
Ash and Dari.
we're not, we're not going to get the tower of Genji because now he has the.
Well, no,
he
they
has
have to give this the tower again
No, they
because
don't.
that's how Rand ended up. He goes in there and get.
well, they don't
Trust me,
have
the
to.
way
They
this
can
show
write
is
it.
going. Think about how long Moraine was gone in the books, right?
Mhm. Matt
Rosamund,
didn't even make it in one
she
of the
is
books.
not going to disappear for an episode or two.
No,
or
she's
three.
She's the star in
There's
this series.
not going to be a tower of Genji. There's not going to be a relationship between her and Tom because we haven't seen him since episode
Yeah,
one
he's
or
been
two.
around.
So
Yeah.
You will be in the next season.
yeah, but like
I'd say Tom goes away in the books and does come back later on.
Yes.
yeah, but he's around all the way through the Great Hunt. And not, yeah, it was a Great Hunt. Well, I know he was all the way through Outer World, but I think he was around the Great
He
Hunt.
was there. He was there, and he had a much stronger part in the books. But then these were boys who weren't mature and needed a guidance,
Yeah.
and that's what Tom was. Tom is a very different character than the person in the books, as far as the way they've written it in
Why
the
do you
show.
So-
think they chose to make them old?
Because there are certain things that I think nowadays, especially in 2023, especially the way that they portray Rand and Egwene's relationship, you can't really show that with younger people nowadays. They try not to. So
Of course, they didn't have that kind of relationship in the books.
And I-
So,
I think
but
it's just a totally different
There's-
situation.
I have said
yeah,
that.
but again, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the show.
The show.
And in order, like, there's so many young adult shows and books and properties that show those type of relationships, and I think they were going for a different audience.
Right, yeah.
So you kind of have to age them up.
Yeah, and the other thing, like I said, the showrunner recognized that in order to reach a particular audience, there were things he had to change. But also, I'm sure he was like, okay, so
Excuse me, sir. I'm sorry. We are recording the panel, so can you kind of just a little bit
background noise,
Yeah,
it messes up the recording.
yeah, and then while we're up here talking, just be a little,
I have one of the voices.
thank you.
we so well back to the question because I think I only asked one question. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about the show. I love the costumes. I love the set design. I did have problems with a lot of the things because I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to be. That's not what's supposed to be going on. But once I decided to view it as this is something that is not related to the show. I mean, the books. It is not the books. Once I was able to do that, I could start looking at it critically and saying, yeah, everything they're doing with Perrin is wrong. Even as a writer, you're a writer. Like it doesn't track with me. It's like you're making him this way, but there really isn't a reason for him to be the way he is.
Yeah.
Other than you kill his wife, but you didn't. It would have worked if they had the episode of 2 where we saw he and his wife interact and have a relationship and see how much he cared for her.
Well, I think the thing with Perrin and, you explaining that in the books, everything is an internal monologue with him. And they're trying to show that in the show. If you think about Perrin and his wife, like, yes, he loved Layla, But it also came out in the first season that he was in love with Egwene.
Mhm.
And that causes a little bit of conflict because Rand is his best friend. And so you have someone who is dealing with this guilt on different levels. Like he feels guilty because he accidentally killed his wife. And then he feels guilty because when they are in the ways, you know, it tells him, yeah, you only married her because you were, you know, because you couldn't have Egwene. Or he has those thoughts in his head. So that, like, I feel informs his character as well, because you have a person who could be a very happy person, but he has all of this internal guilt that we are, you know, that they're using this character to kind of explain. And it's like the basis of his guilt. Like he loves his wife, but he also loves someone else. And then I think there was the question of whether or not Layla was pregnant when she was killed in the first episode because of the fact that he touched her stomach and all of this other stuff. So I think it just kind of informs Perrin's character. Like, this is a person who is dealing with a lot of guilt. This is a person who is dealing with a lot of trauma. And he portrays that very well in the show.
And because he doesn't talk about it really, it shows us the fact that he is one of these internal thoughts kind of people without it being hard to show. Because it is very difficult to show someone who has all these internal thoughts on screen. It's just very hard. So you've got to find some way for it to act out. And do I agree with how they chose to do it? But I get why they chose to do it. I guess that's the point there.
And the one thing I did notice about the show is the majority of the characters all have these internal struggles.
Mhm.
And I want to say that is sort of like the theme of the show. You have Moraine struggling internally with things by herself. Swan is struggling with things inside of herself. Rand has this constant battle inside of himself. Matt, you know, even though the actor left and it kind of messed the show up, the new one that came back, the new Matt, he does a better job of showing like his internal conflict.
I like the new Matt better. I know not everybody does, but
I do too.
I like him so much better.
As a team, I think a lot of this tracks with where they're going to go with the show, because we know ultimately the ultimate conflict is really an internal battle with Rand. Like everything turns on how he deals with his internal struggle. Like, am I going to destroy the world and break the will, or am I going to save it? And I think we got a lot of that. Even though he was absent most of the second season, it feels like Rand.
I don't feel
It
that
felt
way.
like it. It felt like it.
I think in the first couple of episodes, yes, even though, you know, we see him appear at the very end of the first episode, and then you see him start with, what's her name, Celine in the second episode. I felt like he was more present, but I think it's just the fact that because everyone was separated, we got to see more of everybody else and what they were going through. So I feel like he had as much screen time with them,
Yeah. But it
even
seemed
though
like
he's supposed to be the
Yeah.
like
he
focus.
was spinning his wheel though.
Yeah.
This time. He really wasn't going anywhere.
Right,
I
yeah,
feel
he
like-
wasn't doing much. They were setting up Celine and the situation with Celine. But, you know, I think you're right, but I guess what I go back to is at the beginning, they said that Maureen was going to be the star. And of course, Rand, Perrin, and Matt were the stars of the books. So if she's the star, she's going to get more screen time because she signed on as the star and she's supposed to have more screen time.
That's why they
The
want
rest-
the entire Genji.
Yeah, that's why also I think you're getting less of Rand because he's getting balanced between the others. Although I did feel like we got more of Egwene in season
did,
2.
yeah.
A lot more of her than the others. In fact, I would say Egwene and Perrin probably had a little bit more memory. I may be wrong there.
No,
than
you're
the
right.
others.
Yeah.
You know, Nynaeve, though, I mean, they did get that right.
Yeah.
The whole accepted thing. At first, I thought they were going to screw that up too, because I was like, wait a minute, she didn't stay. But then I was like, okay, they got it right. Okay. So, but
So the second season, the first season I was on the fence. Second season turned me. I'm
Yeah.
digging the show. I think a lot of the decisions they made for the second season were really, really good. So was there anything from the second season that stands out to you as being
Good or bad, or?
good, bad? Is there something
Yeah,
on the go
from the non-book
from the
person that's
non-book
here.
reader that really bothered you about?
Oh, he knows the answer,
Yeah,
obviously.
he does. He
About
does.
Nynaeve.
So of course, as a person of color, representation is very important, and that was one of the things that we liked about The Wheel of Time when it came out. You know, that you saw a lot more representation. You saw a lot more people of color. You know, Asian people. It was a lot, and I still felt that with the second season. I still think they're doing a good job. But one of the issues that I had was the fact that you took a character that was a person of color and you made her a slave for most of the season. I had such a problem with that.
Oh.
I had such a problem with that. And then also on
You're
the,
supposed to have a problem.
yeah, I know, but it's just,
It's
it's
That's
just,
what I told you. It's supposed to sell you.
yeah. And then I think the other part, with Nynaeve's character, you know, you build her up in the first season to be probably the most powerful channeler that they've seen in 1,000 years, right? And then you pretty much make her impotent for this season. And not only that, but she has to constantly get saved by, you know, the white savior type character. I had problems with that. I had so many problems with that. And I understand, yes, one of the things about having more representation in a show of this caliber, there are storylines that's gonna make you feel. I would have been upset about the fact if it was another character, if it was a white character, whatever, also being slave, just because I have issues with slavery in general, but I understand that this is what that world is. And I love what they did with her character as far as being able to get out of that on her own steam, not needing anyone to rescue her. Love that part. But just, we saw so much of Egwene this season, and she was a slave for most of it. It bothered me.
And you know, I hadn't thought
But that's working up to
some other things,
Yeah.
something,
and this
because she-
she,
her
I
story is
figured-
one of my
story
favorite
I figured-
in the whole
Yeah.
But
thing
still,
that's
it's like,
she's got an incredible story arc. Incredible. She
I
and
figured.
Perrin are actually my two favorite characters from the books.
Mhm.
But I'll tell you, I didn't think about that. I should have, but I didn't think about that because this is where they are following the books,
Mhm.
where Egwene does get, made the slave. And what they did do differently is she gets out on her own power,
Mhm.
which did not happen
That's
in
not
the
in the
books.
Okay.
She was saved by Nynaeve and Elaine. So they gave her the power to free herself.
Mhm.
So I guess maybe that was their effort at redemption. I don't know. As far as Nynaeve, that again is sticking to the storyline. Nynaeve has not learned how to control her power.
She needs to learn how to control her anger first.
Well, that's part of Nynaeve's character. That's one of the things they are keeping. Now, she's not tugging on her braid, which that's one of the fun things. But also, they grew her up in a nice way because Nynaeve really was very immature in the books, and I didn't like Nynaeve in the books because she was so immature. At least we have a woman instead of a child.
She could be a brat in the books.
And she was an absolute brat in the books. Let's just put
I
it.
mean, she wasn't too far from that this season.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's the other thing, and again, this is another thing that I think a lot of people wouldn't see, that angry black girl trope.
So
Just-
was there something that stood out to you in season 2?
They have to make her angry.
I know.
I'm curious about the way they brought Avienda in with Perrin, and
Yeah,
it's
almost like a scene when they're gonna couple them.
yeah, and
That's
which-
my biggest fear.
It
I have a
that,
sneaking
Well,
suspicion
Manuel's
things,
gonna be in the next season,
and see
so
they've
you
got
know
men
that-
with Matt, so there's some weird things going on. And I mean, has Randy even met Elaine? He hasn't met Elaine.
Yes, he did.
Did he?
Yeah,
Well, the end was
she
still
healed him.
there.
She healed him.
That's right. That's right. Okay.
And,
So
and he looked at her, up at her, and was like,
yeah. So, but I'm curious where they're going with that. The other thing that stuck out to me, and I thought this was done very stupidly, is how Perrin learned Hopper's name. I'm sitting here going, what in the world is going on screen here? What is this? And then he goes, Hopper. I'm like, seriously, that's how you're going to do that? You know? But those are the two things I think that stuck out beyond the things we've already talked about.
Okay. We have about 5 minutes left, or 4 minutes left. Was there anything from the floor? Anyone from the floor want to make a comment about the show or the books?
I only watched the first season. First and second one coming out. I don't know, but I was real disappointed at first because they changed them.
Yeah, you just
They're
have.
saying that season 2 is.
It's a good season.
Mhm.
It's
It is.
a
It's a
really
better
good
season.
season. Like as far as pacing, and one of the things we talk about all the time. I'm so sick of these 8-episode, seasons. Give us.
I know.
You can at least give us 10, like
The season's
Netflix.
supposed to be 24 episodes.
Yeah, that was back in Netflix.
That was back in the
They-
day.
I don't even think. Yeah, Network
I don't think
TV
studios
does it.
want to do
We
that
only
anymore.
had 2 runs in the summer.
Yeah, but it's very well paced, and the character development is very good in this
And
season.
they all change clothes.
Yeah,
They have more than one item in their wardrobe.
That's nice to know.
Yeah.
yeah.
The thing that stood out to me were the IU. I think that
Yeah.
in a proper introduction
Mhm.
to them was good.
Yeah, and I remember
can't
you
wait
talking
to see
about
the
that. And you were
wise
like,
women.
they better do this right. And I
Yeah.
remember the thing you told me about when the
When
the
they-
bandana goes up, and so when she looked like Perrin was, they were getting ready to be attacked by the white coats. Oh, speaking of which, did we really have to see Child Wilder back? Like I thought he was dead, but anyway. So when they're sitting there and they're about to attack, and Perrin goes to stand in front of her like he's gonna protect her, and she just went. I said, "Oh, it's about to go down," and she pulled that up. She was like, "Perrin, do you like to dance?" I said, "Oh, she's about
They
to
call
whoop
dance the spears.
some ass." And that scene was so much it was so good. I was like, okay, yes, that's how you introduce a character. And then when she met up with the other IL and that whole little ritual, I guess because she was kind of responsible for the other person being killed. So
She had told.
yeah, so I was like, oh, this is intense. But it makes me interested to see and learn more about that particular culture. Yeah.
Right here, as the panelist, is Jordan coming?
Huh? Have any, you're
Right.
asking, I go to Georgia.
Go to Jordan, yeah.
I
Jordan Con's good.
I would love to go.
The panels that talk about it
I-
at Jordan Con are amazing.
April. Where do you live?
I live in Jonesboro.
Oh, well, Jordan comes in Atlanta.
I know.
It's
I'm
not,
gonna go.
you don't have to travel.
I'm gonna go.
Yep.
Because the best time was when they had a Wheel of Time track at Dragon Con. Did all in high fantasy.
So I will be at Jordan Con this year.
Yeah, but the
This
person
will be
who
my
runs
third
the
year.
high fantasy track is the one that's the chair at Jordan Con. Like, they're the ones that started Jordan Con.
Well, that's changed up. So the people running it have changed up they changed last year. Because people who were running it needed a break. Different people are running Jordan Con now.
Jennifer.
I've lost track of it. Some of the people who were involved in the running from the beginning are not. Some of them stepped down, and I don't know who exactly is
Oh,
doing it.
but the chairs didn't step, Jennifer
Maybe
and
not.
Amy didn't step
Maybe
down.
not. I've lost track of who's who.
All right, well, that's the end of our panel. Thank you guys for coming. I really
Does anybody have a
appreciate it.
pen